Now, I have a theory that most drivers in my city can be broken down into one of two categories. On one hand, you have people who poodle along at 5 miles per hour, reading the bumper stickers of the car in front, counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, in order to make sure that they're following at a safe distance. On the other hand, you have people who do essentially the same thing, but instead they stop counting after 1 miss and are usually either texting, eating chili, applying makeup, or worst of all, listening to the song Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. Believe me, I have seen and heard all of those. Instead of scanning for potential dangers further away, they're stuck staring at the 10 feet of road directly ahead of them. Now, the California DMV handbook actually writes, in order to avoid last-minute moves, scan the road 10 to 15 seconds ahead of your vehicle so you can spot potential hazards early. And to respond to that, I only have one thing to say. Wow. Thanks a lot, Governor Brown. This mindset of focusing on the present has not only affected the way people drive, but also the way that they live their lives as well. So I'm going to have to admit that Governor Brown's advice to look ahead is right, in a way. We've reached a point where the effects of society have left us stuck worrying about the present and have jaded our concerns for the future. So to understand the extent of this issue, we'll take a look at several causes leading to this altered mindset, examine the societal and economic implications, before finally moving on to some more positive, progressive future with some solutions. So now, I know that many of us believe that if something isn't on the first page of Google search results, then it doesn't exist, right? Whereas people used to have to go through books to find the information that they were looking for, now a few words and a few things typed into a web browser will lead to answers to math homework, facts about emperor penguins, or signs to tell whether or not your crush likes you. The problem with this is that because the average time required to find information is much shorter than it was, say, 10 to 20 years ago, our patience has been cut down as well. According to Narayan Janakaraman, assistant professor of marketing at the University of Texas Arlington, it's not that the need for instant gratification is new. It's just that our expectation of instant has become much faster, and as a result, our patience is thinner. See, the cruel irony is that we are being conditioned by our current level of technology to spend less time actually thinking, hindering our ability to move forward. All what we want is quick sound bites and large, bold headlines for information. Now, just several decades ago when people bought products, they had to learn how to use them. For example, when people bought cars, they had to learn how to drive stick shift. When people bought computers, they had to learn how to type in long strings of text just so that their computer would run simple programs. Now let's fast forward 50 years and we'll just go with one example. The iPad. It's a beautiful looking tablet that combines the capabilities of a computer with the portability of a book. And Apple has sold millions of them across the globe. But the most amazing part is that it comes with no instruction manual. Now think about that for a second. You open the big box, press the big button, and Siri comes to life, asking you questions about your account information, your personal information, your favorite drinks at Starbucks, your love life. We've spent the last decade and century ago coming up with ways to make lives more efficient for ourselves, and looking back, I think we've done a pretty darn good job. We've eliminated trivial processes that waste time, giving us more time for actually focusing on bigger issues. But instead of focusing on these issues, we're stuck where we are. And it's beginning to concern me that my generation of kids, a group that has grown up with technology to make life easier, is about to enter the world of business and careers. Why would we want to improve when we're already so efficient? Our parents saw the need because they didn't have the conveniences that we have today. But many of us teenagers don't have that motivation, and without that, I'm actually afraid that my generation won't be able to uphold that American legacy of ingenuity and innovation. This downward spiral seems to have started already. Take a look at the auto industry, for example. In 2009, the US government chose to bail out General Motors as the Detroit-based company filed for bankruptcy after years of losses. The economists summed the situation up saying, if Detroit had spent less time lobbying for government protection and more time on actually improving its products, then it would have fared much better. Instead of developing new hybrids and energy-efficient cars to go with the rising cost of gas in the 21st century, GM decided to cater to the 5-year-old in all of us by releasing the 15 mile per gallon Chevy Camaro, and as all things, painting it like a bumblebee. See, this mindset of focusing on technology to get us by for today will only lead to problems in the future. According to David Lippman, journalist for D-Business, if we hadn't bailed out GM, America would have lost one of its premier industries, along with a critical mass of skilled labor, physical plants, technology, and suppliers. Michigan would have experienced a $60 billion to $70 billion annual hit for several years. 5 years later, GM is still struggling to regain its footing despite the government's intervention of $50 billion. About $10 billion of that taxpayers' money has been lost. And that's just with one company. This notion of glossing over concerns for the future just doesn't just end there. The consequences of short-sightedness can also be fatal. Most of us know the story of the RMS Titanic, a British passenger ship that smashed into the side of an iceberg and sank on the dawn of April 15, 1912. The catastrophic loss of life that occurred was attributed to a combination of poor planning, improper regulations, and misguided faith in the safety of the ship. At the time, there were no regulations concerning a ship the size of the Titanic, so the company behind the construction of the ship, the White Star Line, deemed that the ship would only carry 16 lifeboats, enough to carry only half the passengers and crew. In addition, since the company had been promised that its ship was unsinkable, safety and drills were conducted in a rushed fashion. In fact, in the 6 or 7 hours that the Titanic underwent testing, it was never sailed at full speed, and the crew never took the time to figure out how long it would take to lower all 16 of its lifeboats. These catastrophic errors in judgment that the White Star Line were made due to a result to push the maiden voyage of the Titanic to an earlier date. But these decisions, made without considering the potential consequences, caused the deaths of over 1,500 passengers and crew members. An event that could have been avoided turned into one that sent the finest ship of Her Majesty's fleet to a watery grave. Now, Albert Einstein once said, "It's not that I'm smarter than others, it's just that I spend more time with problems." He's urging us to stick with the issues that matter most, to spend time on deeper issues rather than satisfying the superficial ones. This mindset is one that will bring back the patience that we desperately need in order to even begin solving our problem of not looking ahead. Peter Marshall, chaplain of the United States Senate, had it right when he said, "A different world cannot be built by indifferent people." We need to stop being content with our lives the way that they are and realize that there is more out there to be done. Instead of standing still and focusing on now, we need to continue pushing the envelope, whether it be developing new technology or coming up with more efficient processes for our society. And we need to stop letting go of the consequences and start realizing the potential consequences of the decisions that we make today.